Now, there's another group of children who have experienced chronic rebuff, rejection, emotional unavailability. In particular, when they bring a tender need to the parent, for example, go over to them and put up their arms, I want to be picked up, their parent turns them away. So especially when they have a tender need arise, they experience rejection and rebuff.
If I'm the father, I'm talking about my daughter, I am not seeing the mind beneath the behavior of my daughter. I'm responding to behavior primarily. I do keep her safe, so I'm not a source of terror, and I do protect her. I'm not so good at soothing because I'm not tuned into her. So she develops not a secure attachment, but insecure avoidant. And as one of my patients once said, when I saw a picture of her at 2 years old, and she was dealing with all kinds of things just like this, she's standing here like this, she said, I wasn't gonna need anybody. It is an independence that is a form of adaptation. So she said to me, I couldn't depend on anyone, so why would I depend on them? It's that simple. So avoidance is a neural mechanism that basically disconnects you from your own internal world, because every child needs connection. So when the connections are not there, you find a way not to be constantly bombarded with the longing for something that is impossible to get. And so by 1 year of age, the attachment research shows these children have adapted by basically shutting down.
Another thing that's very interesting about the avoidant pattern is that sometimes people think, well, this child just was busy, so it didn't matter to him that the parent came back in. Well, when we have the parent leave again, which is more stressful, and even usually leads those with the avoidant pattern to cry, the second reunion, they will avoid even more than they did the first time. So to argue that they became more nonchalant or less interested in the mother because they were more stressed really makes no sense at all.
Their lower brain areas know this is important. So if you do a hand model of the brain, here's the cortex, here are the lower areas. The lower areas are registering this relationship is important, but the cortex, where the motor area is that gets your body to do stuff, says, don't bother. Don't waste your energy. This is not going to be anything that's worthwhile. And don't even think about it.
And we did studies with heart rate showing that their heart rates remain elevated even while they're avoiding her on reunion. Also, when a stranger comes in, they don't show the avoidance of the stranger. They'll look at the stranger and engage them. It's the caregiver in particular that they avoid.
Then in ambivalent insecure attachment, what you see is not the disconnection from the avoidant attachment, but you see intrusiveness and inconsistency. So let's say I'm the dad, and we're talking about my daughter's attachment to me. So what that means is that sometimes I'm seeing her clearly, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm intruding my emotional state on her, and sometimes I'm not. And that, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes she's seen, and sometimes she's not. Sometimes she's soothed, and sometimes she's not. But generally she's safe, in the sense I'm not creating terror in her, and I'm protecting her.
The inconsistency of the responsiveness leads these babies to have to shift the balance of their behavior all over toward the caregiver. They're unable to play effectively with the toys and very easily made stressed or weary. So these babies may go and fuss and seek to be picked up even before we ask the mother to leave the room. Why is that? That's because they cannot count on the fact that certainly their attachment figure will respond to them if they have a stress. So they must signal frequently, intensely, all the time in the face of even minimal stress, because they don't know with certainty that the caregiver will respond.
So the soothe and seen part, again, is violated, and so you don't get security, you get ambivalence. And so to put ourselves in the mind of the daughter, she looks to her dad, me, and she sees him, and she doesn't know if he's going to be available this time, so she clings to him. So there's a kind of ambivalence, like I want him, but I don't know if he's gonna be reliable, but he might be, but he maybe won't be, he might be, he may not be, and so it's this kind of confused internal sense of self when she's with me.
If my caregiver doesn't hear me well, I better be louder. If my caregiver doesn't respond quickly enough, I better stay right by them so they can. So babies that are by 12 months, unduly clingy or demanding of attention and contact, even when stress is minimal, are called anxious in their attachment. They're not too attached. They're no more attached than the babies that are secure. They're anxious about their attachments. So they must devote all this attention to their mother.
If the source of terror is the attachment figure, you got a serious problem. Because the brainstem says go away from that figure who's causing the terror. The attachment system says go toward the attachment figure when you're terrorized. And you can't make one body go both toward and away from the same physical presence, the caregiver. So therefore, the whole system becomes disorganized. There is no organized adaptation to the experience the child is having. Either the absence of something is terrifying or a terrifying overt event is happening and the parent is the source of that. So you can't do anything with it. So unlike insecure ambivalent or insecure avoidant, which are organized adaptations, that is, the child is given something and they very appropriately come up with an organized adaptation. Here's what I'm given, I'll deal with it. Disorganized attachment is quite different because there's a collapse in behavioral strategies.
It's an irresolvable paradox. It has no solution. There is no strategy that you can maintain in the face of a frightening caregiver.
And then what we find as they get older is they have a clinical process called dissociation. So dissociation is a clinical term. What it means is disassociation. So usually associated things become disintegrated. My thoughts and my feelings may become separate. Feelings of awareness and my body may become separate. So I have depersonalization. I have a feeling like my connection with the world is unreal. Derealization. I may actually have fragmentations of memory.
The specific predictions from attachment theory to psychopathology have to do with things like anxiety, depression, and personality disorders. And attachment history has been shown to be related to all of those.